The East did not wake gently. It woke as fire wakes beneath ash, slow at first, then all at once. For generations, the Crimson East had been spoken of in past tense, a direction on a map where history had once burned bright before being smothered by treaties, occupations, and silence. Cities there had learned to sleep with one eye open, their towers scarred by old bombardments, their people taught to speak softly and remember quietly. But memory is patient, and beneath the red-soaked soil of the eastern plain, something old and unbroken stirred again. It began in the factories before dawn, where furnaces that had once been cold roared back to life. Steel flowed like molten blood, reshaped not into tools of trade but into armor, engines, and weapons bearing symbols long forbidden. Trains moved east to west under cover of night, their cargo sealed, their destinations unspoken. Along the borderlands, abandoned watchtowers flickered with new signals, and soldiers who had never known victory stood straighter, sensing that the ground itself has changed beneath their boots. The Crimson East was not unified by a single flag, but by a shared wound. Every village carried stories of borders drawn by outsiders, of brothers divided by rivers renamed in foreign tongues, of skies once filled with enemy aircraft that came without warning. These stories had been passed down not as cries for revenge, but as warnings, until the warnings became instructions. When the awakening came, it did not need a leader to announce it. The people recognized the moment the way animals sense a storm. The first clash did not look like war, it looked like resistance. Border checkpoints went dark. Communication hubs failed in synchronized silence. Garrisons reported shadows moving through forests and cities alike, disciplined, coordinated, and unmistakably deliberate. By the time the Western alliances realized the East was moving again, entire corridors had fallen into Crimson hands without a single broadcast declaration. The world's screens showed confusion, analysts arguing over terminology, hesitant to call it what it was. Then came the skies. Crimson aircraft bearing markings unseen for decades rose in waves from hidden airfields carved into hills and deserts. They did not fly recklessly. They flew with purpose, cutting supply lines, isolating command centers, forcing the enemy to fight blind. On the ground, armored columns advanced not as blunt instruments but as flowing fronts, bypassing strongholds, surrounding rather than smashing, proving that this was not the East of memory, but something sharpened by humiliation and time. Cities in the path of the advance braced for annihilation, but the Crimson forces did not burn indiscriminately. They took control, imposed order, reopened markets under their banners. To some, they were conquerors. To others, they were the return of something that had never truly left. Resistance fighters melted into the advancing ranks, bringing with them knowledge of terrain, tunnels, and betrayals written into the land itself. The Western response came late and loud. Sanctions fell like paper rain. Speeches thundered in marble halls. Fleets mobilized and alliances invoked clauses written for moments exactly like this. Moments no one believed would return. When Western forces finally met the Crimson East in open battle, it was on a frozen plain where red banners snapped in the wind, and artillery fire turned the horizon into a burning line. The clash was total. Drones screamed overhead. Tanks burned. Infantry advanced through smoke, knowing retreat was no longer an option for either side. What shocked the world was not the ferocity of the Crimson East, but its endurance. Every loss hardened it. Every fallen city became a rallying cry rather than a warning. The East fought not for expansion alone, but for recognition, for the right to exist on its own terms after centuries of being shaped by others. Even as casualties mounted and the ground turned dark beneath the snow, Crimson commanders refused ceasefires that offered only delay and division. As months turned into a year of fire, the world changed. Neutral nations chose sides, trade routes rerouted. Old powers weakened as resources drained into the furnace of the conflict. And still the Crimson East pushed forward, not endlessly but deliberately, stopping only when the lines it had reclaimed matched the borders remembered in its oldest songs and maps. The final moments of the awakening were not marked by surrender or parade. They came quietly when the guns fell silent along a new frontier, and crimson banners were planted not in celebration, but in warning. The East stood bloodied, scarred, and unbowed, no longer asleep, no longer ignored. It had awakened not as a relic of history, but as a force that reminded the world of a truth it preferred to forget, that empires do not always announce their return with crowns and speeches. Sometimes they wake with fire.